Welcome to One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, where we get curious about what makes us tick. I'm joined today by a man who seeks out the stories between the world's most expensive and dangerous sport. Welcome, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us today. So let's get straight in and tell us, what do you do?
Okay, what do I do? So I'm a journalist, first and foremost. That's obviously my main MO. It's something that I love doing. I love writing, researching. Again, you know, the different, obviously, leagues in motorsport and just the rarest cars. I think there's always a story to be told. You know, I think I've just kind of wanted to do that. I had the dream of doing F1, like most of us do, and reality kicks in, and that's not really as feasible as one might think. So I am down to doing something, an avenue to share that love for.
So we met for the first time at Goodwood Festival of Speed when you came on the stand there, and that's when you were talking about this kind of a different idea about reporting in most. So tell us a bit about this concept and what it is that your passion is in this reporting.
So I think you know, on YouTube, what I've to start from there is really, I see a lot of the same type of form of journalism. You know, I think everybody, you know, there's so many terms. There's, you know, content creator, there's journalist, there's just, you know, these things here. But I think the approach we're trying to do is trying to create pieces of film that will just last longer than that. You know, you're going to walk away from watching a review or a piece of film that we're gonna kind of create, and you're going to be like, wow, there's something special about that I didn't know. And I guess maybe that is the job of any journalist. But I feel like there's a cycle, and more than anything, a lot of the guys on social media, they're just kind of all the same a little bit. And I think everyone has their different intentions, you know, whether it's to be more informative or whether it is to create that piece of film. And just to go to people that are doing it, you have Rory Reid at Auto Trader, who his a lot of his work is pieces of film. It's 10 minutes, but the quality, the cinematic behind it, it is that piece of film, and you walk away understanding, wow, that's a cracking car, isn't it? And you do have, obviously, Matt Watson, which I think most people know of him. Most people use him as a form to buy their next car, because obviously you have that car wow platform. So, you know, I see one here, I see one there. I'm like, how can I bring them together and create something essentially like Top Gear? You know, that was a show that you grew up watching with your old man. You ate dinner watching it, and I just can't eat my dinner and watch a lot of the stuff on YouTube nowadays. I can't. It's just not that, you know. So yeah.
It's the thing that really struck me when we spoke last time as well is, and you were talking about sort of a car review. There's the car review, which are kind of almost the words in the question, reviews the car. But you were very much talking about the emotion. The emotion, the passion that goes behind the car. So tell us a bit more about that.
So I think every car obviously has a story, and I think the connection that I think us car enthusiasts share with cars is, to some people, it's like, why is he spending $250,000 on that car? Why is he spending all this money on that car? But it's because it does something for us. You know, when I was at Goodwood and I was at the car park, and I told my mates, I said, look around in this car park, right? You see probably maybe 100 million in terms of all the cars that are there. But they weren't all bought. They were bought in different situations. Some could have bought a car because they're going through divorce, and buying this car was their way to feel like they're who they were. You know, it could be, you know, your old man had a car and, you know, you lost him, and that's what he left behind you. There's a connection to it. And I think those are the stories that I think are as rare and the gems. And I think those are the things that is something that I can tap into, because I don't think that's been tapped into as such.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so many avenues in terms of the type of content I want to create, but I think it is just being able to, you know, tell a story so well, and so that you just walk away feeling something. You know, I know in YouTube they say about it's like a span that, you know, your people don't spend more than 20 minutes watching a video, so you have to cut it short. But I think that just goes down to what you're watching. Because I've sat on YouTube and I've watched stuff for an hour long, but because it tapped into something that I was going through, it tapped into just anything that I can resonate with, that's what made me want to watch it.
It's interesting. Since we again had that first chat, I think about there's a friend of mine. It's actually been one of the earlier episodes of the podcasts, and I think they found a car that belonged to his father.
No way. Wow.
And it had it refurbished and whatever, and reconnected.
Did that bond,
thing again. So yeah, I think you're right. I think, I mean, I can remember my first car. I had a Mini Clubman Estate.
Estate?
Yeah. I mean, they're so tiny when you see a Mini Classic on the road now, but I remember everything about that. I remember the smell of it. I remember how it felt driving it. Yeah. I remember how much rust fell out of it. But there was an emotional connection to that car. So I think that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing that content. So navigate the story then. So how did you get to embarking on this now? Tell me the story of how you got here. What different things have you done to get here?
Don't worry. So when I started, I was 14. My brother obviously went to college and he studied motor vehicle. There was this thing that Havering and Barkingham College did, which they formed another college almost to get people who wanted to be mechanics, but to be able to give them to work alongside the Ford apprentices who had those apprenticeships. So they'd work in the same garage where the Ford obviously places in Dagenham. And that way it gave students to have the same really good tools to work on these cars and kind of learn obviously how to fix cars, kind of thing. And I think he kind of got, quite deep into rallying. Okay. And that's how I became part of Chelmsford Motor Club. Okay. So he did the 24 hours Citroen 2CV race, and he was a mechanic.
There's a car.
Yeah, that's a car, literally. And he did that in, what year we're talking? Sounds like I'm old, I'm only 25. It was maybe before the Olympics, no, maybe around that time, maybe 2011. And they said, look, we have a Citroen 2CV, and it's probably in the worst state possible, but we want to compete with it. And he knew someone called Jim Bower, which is the chairman of Chelmsford Motor Club. So that's kind of how that formed. And I think he took me to one of the practice runs, and you could see every other team in the paddock, in the pit lane. They had the mechanics, they had the snap-on tools, they were ready to go. And you had my brother with a Tesco bag, your Tesco bag that had those blue lines that said every little helps. Yeah. And that's where he held his tools, because he was the only mechanic there. And I think that experience just kind of it just motivated me in so many ways, because he won the trophy for, I forgot what the term was. It was this 2CV like in like a silver, like they created like in a silver type color, and it was a big trophy, right? And he basically gave it to him because the car lasted 24 hours. Right. And that's obviously part of any 24-hour race. Yeah. And I think that was rare, because every other team had a better formula, a better team, and some cars didn't make it, and his car did, and one that he worked on. And he was still studying, so he hadn't even finished his level 3 at that time. But yeah. I think that story is something that, I love talking about, but I think just being there, and just seeing him work and seeing him do what he loved, I think that's kind of where it started. Going on from that, started marshalling. That really sparked a part of me to want to be a racing driver, like as I said, like anyone wanted. But you get hit with the financial, you're like, no, it's not happening.
So navigate me then between there and now. What have you done?
So since then, since that point, I got lucky. I entered when I was in college. There's something called the BSKC Karting Championship. It's British Schools Karting Championship. And what it was for people between, I think it was 16 to 19, and if it was just part of your school, there was a competition, there was a championship that you'd enter. My teacher walked in. I did that alongside Green Power Racing. My teacher came one day and said, Jeremy, I've got something. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, and I didn't like her at the point. I didn't like her at the time. She said, look, there's this karting championship. Do you want to compete? And at that time, I never actually karted.
Right.
I'd never karted. This was when I was 18, 19. He said, okay, come along, look, why don't you be part of it? I know you love cars. This is an avenue for you. Cool. So the first, we'll do some practice runs at Brentwood. And I don't know how she connected with this There's this racing driver called Luciano Barchetta. He did GT3, he did LMP1. I don't know how she knew him. I don't know how that formulated, but he was another mentor to us, just in regards to, you know, how to be fast on the track and just things to kind of help us as we were kind of going through this championship. Cool. So we go on. We made it to regionals. I think we were third in that. I still have this certificate with my name on it, as if it's like my holy grail at home. And made it there, went regionals in Buckmore Park.
Yeah.
And that was fun. Didn't make it. Did not make it. There were some 15-year-old kids who were just bloody fast. You couldn't catch them. And I was 6'2" at that time.
Right, okay.
There were so many things against us because obviously we weren't, and that was me, Stefan. I think it was Alfie because it was a team of three. One of the gentlemen, he was short. He was still quick. But that really told us, times it's not happening. And did that. And ever since then, I kind of put anything automotive aside. I went to uni for a year to study automotive and thinking that I'd be this, amazing mechanic. And I did my foundation year and I was like, maths isn't for me. And, when you go to university to study automotive engineering, it isn't, people sometimes go there thinking you're going to be working. No, it's the application of engineering in the automotive sector. That's what it is. So you're just learning mathematics, physics, and applying that when you're in the real world, when you kind of leave university into, your job, and then that's what you're going to be doing. But it isn't what I want to do.
Right.
I just want to drive some crazy, rare, raw cars and tell a story and share that experience with someone else.
And your passion, I mean, you ooze the passion. you literally ooze the passion for this as well. So it's not hard to see why you want to. But so you did a year of uni. So then you've got this passion for motorsport.
Yeah.
What next? How did you move forward?
Yeah. So since then, it was. I think time went really where I just didn't do much with it. I think, as I said, I would marshal on the weekends, but I knew that I'd done enough marshalling where it got boring. It just got boring. How can I do what I know I want to do? I can feel what I want to do, but there isn't a job title that I can do that.
Right.
And it's what I fast forwarded to someone who said, well, why don't you start writing blogs about cars and getting, understanding and creating these stories and find out what's rare about that car, what makes that car, and then quickly but surely, I started to understand. I'm biased. I'm a biased Porsche fan. I'll be honest. I just if you gave me a Porsche GT3, and I just love that car company. Spent 30, 40 years building that 911.
Yeah.
Rebuilding it, and the 938 was a cracking car. Enzo Corner boost, you're flying, and it was a driver's car, and I think that's when I just kind of started to research into different manufacturers, why they use particular engines, over the others, and I ended up piecing the two quite quickly, which was that motorsport is the avenue that car companies would use to basically test whatever idea they have, and then they'll dump it into a road car.
Yeah.
Hence why you have so many cars that are based off the race car version of it.
Yeah, I mean, Le Mans 24 Hour, a lot of stuff from that ends up
being,
hybrid technology, all that kind of thing.
Literally. So I ended up doing that. I was like, there's a story on that. And then next thing you know, I had about 100 different topics and different stories to tell in a short space of time. And I said, well, if I could do this full time, I could probably be good at it because I know I can talk. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is it. And
so with that passion going on over here, how did you pay the bills? Because obviously that's the passion.
Yeah.
But how did you have to divert into other jobs and industries? Tell me a bit about
So in terms of, just to be honest with you, on that bill side, I've just kind of picked up any job that would pay the bills. So going off that, I was a recruitment consultant for about just over a year. Before that, I was working as a waiter at Chelsea Football Club. Right. So those were those were like my 9 to 5, you could say. And obviously I had to try to squeeze anything motor related, marshalling, going on rallies, doing anything about that on a Saturday and Sunday. That's kind of how I made it work. Tough on me because, for many, when I was marshalling and rallying and I was working, I never had any social time because when my mates are going out on Friday night, I'm either at home researching or I'm reading books or I'm I'm doing something, or I'm taking care of my old man too.
Yeah.
So that's what made it. That is obviously a little bit of pressure, but what I found is I'm trying to kind of build a formula, this machine that can just create these films on and on and on. And I think there's a few. I've been writing a lot recently. Kind of picked that up and learning how to write. And that's what we're going to take into our reviews that we're going to do in these pieces of film we're going to create.
So tell me a bit about the team, because obviously I met the team,
which
obviously aren't with us on this episode. Watch out for a future episode. So tell us who have you got in the team?
Yeah, so obviously you have myself, me, and you have Lamar, which is a good friend of mine, known Lamar for many years. Went to school together, from year 7 onwards. And he always had a passion for cars, always. And he has an M140, which is not the safest car. but he definitely, I think I told him about my idea to just kind of, why don't we just be like people that could just talk about cars? And originally the idea was to be a podcast, but I was like, what? I just wanted to do something a bit different. He was like, what? Top Gear did something that we were kind of trying to do. Why don't we build something like that? I was like, all right, that's fair. Then I was like, okay, then it was just me and him. Emilia, on the other hand, she was ready to help me, said, Jeremy, I just want to help you shoot your content, because she's really good at TikTok. And then I was like, cool. So I got Lamar here, Emilia there. I was like, there's not a lot of women talking about, in the journalism industry, there isn't. And there's not a lot of women in, you have the W series at last. I don't know if that's still going on, to be honest. So I was like, no, you need to speak up. Because there's other young women that wanna do something motorsport related, and I think you could be a voice. To be honest, I said, you know what? Yeah, you need to come you need to be on the front line with us. So that's kind of how we kind of came in, and obviously Seamus obviously was somebody that we kind of just helping us out with obviously shooting and camera, and just that's why he was always with the phone all around. Like on Goodwill, it was quite hilarious because I'd always be around a car and he'd be like, do this, do that, do this, do that, And that's kind of how the team really formed, really and truly. And I think everyone has that same passion to just tell some amazing stories, man. It really comes down back to that, really.
So at the minute, if someone is sort of interested in what you're trying to achieve, who would you like to hear from?
Well, it could be someone. I'll be honest. It's gonna sound weird. I probably maybe do now. I still idolize Jeremy Clarkson, as far away as that is. But just because I think when he told a story about, when he was driving the 928, and he told a story about how it was the only car that could sit, that was be comfortable at 150 miles an hour before his dad passed away. And that story really moved me. It really did. And I remember I just sat there and I was like, bloody hell, a car can do that.
Yeah. And
it's things like that you wouldn't think, no one thinks that's going to happen, but when it does, and you think about just instances like that, I was like, man. And so just someone that I think who's probably done this whole journalism thing or trying to do, just in terms of from an experience standpoint. But I think anybody that's just into cars, really, because we all are joined by this love for cars, essentially. That's kind of what makes, this way you can go to a car event by yourself and you can make about 100 friends talking about cars.
Yeah. So if people have got a car with a story,
absolutely,
you'd love to tell their story.
Absolutely, that's really that would be an amazing opportunity. It's what we're trying to do. We're on the lookout for it. So I think that's going to be cool because you can really tap into.
You've mentioned a couple, but who do you think have been your biggest influences?
I'd say Rory Reid at Auto Trader. I think seeing him at Top Gear, just to be frank with you, there probably was another black journalist there, and just seeing someone from my colour doing that, I was like, man, it made me feel, I can do it. Motivated me a little bit because there isn't a lot of people in this whole automotive world of my colour. So I think that are black. So I said, you know what? Well, he's doing it, and he's doing really well at it. I was like, okay, well, seeing that was like, okay, I can do it. I got a shot at it.
Have you ever reached out to Rory?
Not yet.
Why not?
I don't know. Maybe because I want to earn my stripes a little bit on my own. Yeah, I think that's the layer I'm really at. I want to be able to maybe shoot a whole season and look back at it and say, you know what? How are people responding to it? Is it doing what my intentions are? The intention and the heart and soul I'm putting into it, are people walking away with that? And that's how I'll know, okay, I'm doing all right at what I'm doing, what I want to convey to somebody that's being conveyed, you know?
One thing I'm always fascinated about is the environment or the mindset that people are exposed to. Have you found that you've had a lot of people who don't believe in you or trying to point you in different directions?
It's funny, you have a business idea, people are very quick to tell you why it won't work. Not a lot of people around you will tell you, oh, you have a shot, because people, they hear, you want to be a journalist, but do they even pay? Can you even survive on that? You know, those type of doubts creep in. So a lot of people, if I'm being honest, they're not around me, my immediate circle, but just people in passing, you know. And I think I've been in certain rooms and I've seen people that are maybe a little bit older than me who had some doubts, who had some regrets, and I'm quite young. And I asked myself, you know what, I want to be able to be, my benchmark is 30. I want to be able to be 30 and say, you know what, yeah, I did something. I'm proud of what I did. Whether it benefited me financially, it's something that I would do for free. And essentially what I'm doing, I do for free. I wouldn't ask for a salary to do what I do. If you tell me I can drive the rarest cars, create the rarest stories, I think anyone really would. But it's just something that there's no tie to money in it. And that's why there's more motivation to do it. Because it's like I do it, no holds barred, you know?
I think there's a magic ingredient there, I think. I think when you see people who are doing stuff they're passionate about, I think opportunities will arise. Yeah, I've always believed that. And, you know, and it's no different talking to you now as at Woodward. You know, your passion for it is it's infectious. I was hearing some British touring car drivers talk on Friday at an event I was at, and they were actually, it's quite interesting. They were talking about the financial side.
Wow.
They said, you know, because if you want to be a footballer, you need a good pair of football boots.
Yeah.
If you want to be a good driver. You need a car.
You need a car
and a team and so the barriers to entry are quite high. So and that's you know you just got to follow your passion, haven't you? I think that's when you were sort of going through school, university, sort of that process. Were your family supportive of the direction you wanted to go in?
Honestly, my family as a whole, probably not. You know, my dad is very old school. My dad's 79 years old. Right. My dad is very old school. So he does believe in the go uni, get a job, get married, have kids. You know, that whole traditional way to do things. And I think when I told him about, you know, journalism, he looked at me like, what's that? Like he doesn't. He didn't like. That was such an. It was like to say journalism. He just didn't understand what that really meant. He knew what journalism is, just someone creating stories. But he was like, "Can you actually make a living off that?" So I think my way. I told him. I said, "Let me prove to you that I can. Let me prove to you that I can do it well and be successful at it." He was like, "You know what? Fair. Go for it."
That's fantastic.
And I think, and my dad's very like, he's very honest, very very stoic, very like, you know. Told me this, and he look, and he always says everybody has like, he has this thing about, he said you have to look someone in the eye to know what they're about, and he really does that. And that's why I can't really lie to my dad, because I look at him, I'll lie, he'll be like, I know you're lying, you know. You know what I mean? So I think for that, he's quite supportive in that. My brother, you know, someone who's taken his own journey in the talent management industry, you know, working with, you know, artists to, you know, record labels and doing his thing. I think he's another example of someone that's breaking the mold and doing something that he wants to do. Yeah, I mean, maybe different to anybody he knows personally, you know. And yeah, I think those, and obviously my other brother, who's obviously Chris, who's, you know, done his. I think he was like, oh, I told him, I said, what car do you want to get? He was like, I think I gotta hang up my boots. I can't get these fast cars. I got a kid. I'm tired. And I was just like. And I remember I spoke to yesterday, he was like, oh, you know, this, and I was like, look, I'm trying to get a car. And he was like, yeah. He was like, but what if you have kids? I was like, well, I can't have kids because I know I'm gonna have to get Zafira. I don't want to get Zafira. I don't want to get, I want to just do my thing. He was like, fair enough. So he's definitely taken a little stance back. But I think when he sees me talking about my journalism, and I talk to him about cars, and he's like, you know quite a bit. And he's kind of taught me all my life, you know, with just automotive and different cars and how to fix them as well, you know. So yeah, I think that's kind of what he's done for me, and you know, kind of supporting me on that end, really.
Fantastic. What with the channel? What is the channel called? What's it going to be called?
So it's going to be called Authentic Cars, and I think, you know, in the name, it's just about being authentic. It's about being honest. I do know with journalism as well, at a higher level, I heard something about Chris Harris wasn't allowed to do pieces on Ferrari or something like that, and I was just a bit like, well, I want to create stories, and the story matters more than anything else. Right. I don't want it to be biased. I don't want it to be skewed. Well, maybe from the Porsche one, I'd be biased. Hopefully not. Yeah. But so I just was like, you know what? We want to create authentic pieces of content, stuff that just will last, and that has to be ground zero. And if that's not there, then you know what, we really have to pull out the layers and figure out what we need to do better.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end. I've got two questions for you. I know, doesn't time fly? Yeah. So a question I ask every guest.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, let's assume we could conquer time travel and you could leave the younger Jeremy a letter, a note. Knowing what you know now, what do you think you would write to the younger Jeremy?
As maybe expected as it might sound, I think it's the whole notion of go for it. I think our brains are like, it's crazy how our brains work, but there's so many times that I've had points in my life where I've said, you know what, I want to do this. I have it. I love to do it. But then a day later, I'm like, oh, forget it. It wasn't a good idea. It wasn't the best idea. Or someone said something to me that just kind of, you know, made my idea worthless or whatever. And I think you just need to hold on to whatever passion you have, and whatever's driving you to do something, there's a reason behind it. And I think, you know, it is. There's something behind that. The reason why I want to just create stories, there's a reason behind that. Because maybe part of it is by not being able to make it as a racing driver, I'm trying to find an avenue to still be around that circle of just being around that world. Maybe. Yeah. But there's a reason behind it. And because of that reason behind it, it's your duty to go for it. So by the end of the time that you go for it, you might be able to find the reason behind it. You might be able to know why there was a reason. Oh, this is why I wanted to do this all along. But you're going to find that out full circle.
Fantastic. And my final question, this season we've been asking people to leave a question for a subsequent guest.
Okay.
So to maintain the theme congruent with your passion,
okay.
This is a question left by Bradley Gravett.
Okay.
And the question is this: what's the end goal?
The end goal. Oh, pressure. I'm joking. The end goal really is to just inspire young people, inspire the next generation of young journalists. What's journalism going to look like for the motor industry in the next 20 years? No one can tell you that. The end goal is just to really pass on the baton as well. When it's all said and done, when we're old and grey, when I have grey hair, and there's another young journalist trying to make his mark, maybe we would have supported an avenue to do it. Because you can't really just apply for a journalism job. You just can't.
That's brilliant. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us today.
It's been a pleasure.
So that is it for this episode. You have been listening to One Thought at a Time, and our guest this week, Jeremy Otefisan. So if you have been, thanks for listening.